Hey, everybody. Welcome to a wonderful Saturday afternoon or Saturday morning or Saturday evening for some of you. I'm sure we probably got some people outside of the U.S. watching this show today. So we are live, right? Because I pressed the live button on this thing and it just sat there spinning and spinning and spinning. It looks like maybe it's not streaming to Twitter, but I think we're fine on Facebook and YouTube. I don't know if anybody ever even watches the show on Twitter, so it's probably not even a bad thing. Denim Shirt Day. That's right, Mikhail. Yeah, fashion sense is very important when you tune into one of our broadcasts here. But as you know, we've got Denys Cowan on the show today. This is the fourth time I'll be doing a show and sale with Denys. And this one's a little different, so I'll go over the rules on the art sale, which we'll do at some point in the near future in the show. But let me see, reminding everybody how we're doing things these days. As far as claims, they will happen in the chat. We're getting used to that. We've been doing it for about a month now, where you'll just type in the chat the lot number. Every lot will have a number. We've got 19 lots of art for sale today. After the show, if you've claimed any artworks, I need you to email me, bill@comicartfans.com, and let me know which lots you claimed. Always include your mailing and address. And of course, what we need to know as far as payment goes, I need to know your payment method. If you're planning on paying with a credit card in some manner, typically through PayPal, there is a 4% US charge and a 5.5% international charge. There's no fee with Zelle, and I did open a Venmo account this last weekend, so I can handle Venmo transactions as well. So there is that. And as far as shipping, none of the prices include shipping today. Domestic is $30, international is $65, and as it says right there, I am fulfilling all of the artwork that we have for sale today. I've got it all sitting next to me. I'll even show it off when we're talking about it. So there you have it. I hope you don't have any questions, but I will go over that once more right before we start the sale portion of the show. So let me bring in the man of the hour here. Let me switch over a screen here and bring in Mr. Denys Cowan. Hey, Denys, how are you?
I'm good. How are you, sir?
Man, I am pretty good. But I didn't realize that we kind of had something in common. I mean, your sister lives in Florida and I live in Florida. How interesting is that?
Yes, Florida.
How long has your sister been here?
She's been there for a minute. She's been there since the early 2000s, I think. 06 or something like that is when she moved to Florida.
Okay.
And she likes it. She likes Florida. And I'm like, more power to you.
Yeah. What part of Florida is she in?
She's in Port St. Lucie.
Okay. All right. Well, I've heard that's very nice. So
yeah,
I can understand why she's pretty happy.
She's happy there,
Right.
Port St. Lucie. So she's good.
Not bad at all. Yeah. I'm going to regale Denys of my Florida troubles after the show today. but yes, I've only been here for about 6 months technically, and I'm getting used to it. But it is different. It's definitely not the same as living in Northeast Ohio. So,
you totally change your life. Totally.
Yes.
The total 180.
But hey, so I've been looking at. I've actually watched our last couple interviews and stuff. So it's really only been a year since we've done these, and this is already our fourth show. But you've been pretty busy it seems like, since even the Sienkiewicz show. There's been a lot of stuff going on with Milestone, and so I think you've been very active. I saw recently that that Milestone Initiative that you started last year is I think it was May or April, where you kind of gathered a group of up and coming writers and artists and kind of gave them the maybe we should maybe some of the people who aren't familiar with that, we should talk a little bit about that, because this is something you did last year.
Yeah, we can talk a little bit about it. We just gathered it was like 12 artists and 12 writers together for the Milestone Initiative. It was 12 promising, 24 promising young artists and writers who wouldn't normally have the opportunity. The thing we wanted to give people was young people access into the industry. And no one was promising anyone any jobs. Nobody, promised them anything. But what we did say was, we'll give you all the tools you need to help you succeed. And it was like a 6-week course, culminating with a 1-week visit to Burbank, where we met all the cohorts. We call them cohorts for the Milestone Initiative, all these young people. And it worked out very well. As it turns out, like way over half of them are like working at DC and at various companies now. Some very talented artists and writers have come through. And I think the people at DC are pretty happy, because, they've gone on to do even more things other than the Milestone stuff.
Well, that's fantastic. And I mean, it's this year. That's the 30th anniversary of Milestone.
Yeah. It's the 30th anniversary of Milestone. We should be celebrating a big thing over at San Diego Comic-Con. So we'll be talking about, our 30 years in the business and what we've done in the past and what's coming up in the future. So yeah, it's been 30 years, which I cannot believe.
That is kind of hard to imagine. I mean, you obviously you were there at the beginning. I mean, when you started it, did you envision it lasting for 30 years and having the impact that it's had?
No, I mean, when you're young like that, you think everything you're going to do is forever anyway. Like it's going to be like this forever. So, we're going to wear these clothes forever. It's always going to be like this. But but I had no idea really what I can say is kind of the lasting impact that we've had, and the fact that I'm not surprised that the characters are around 30 years later because they were built on a really strong foundation. I'm very happy that people are still interested in the characters, 30 years later. But I think it's because of all that stuff that we did all that time ago, that still resonates with people today. And plus the stories that we're doing now, the stuff that Reggie's doing, and, Leon Chills, and, all our writers, the guy did Blood Cindy, all of it. It's just contributed to, very pleasing result.
So when you're doing the work today, I mean, are you part of kind of the editorial process? I mean, how are you involved in in the creative?
I'm involved in every step. I mean, we're working with DC. With an excellent editor, Marquise, and Chris Conroy is the chief editor over there at the DC side. But it's really Reggie and I handling, most of the editorial from our end, from the creative end on our side. So yeah, I'm all the artwork gets approved by us. All the artists really get approved by us. They're showing us everything that everyone's doing every step of the way. Sometimes it gets overwhelming because it's a lot. But and plus you're still contributing. I'm still drawing for the books, right. Still doing stuff. So I'm looking at these fantastic pencilers, these fantastic inkers and stuff coming in. And I'm like, I'm judging it from an editorial point of view, and I'm looking at it, but I'm also thinking these guys are so good. Why am I even still doing this? Because they're so incredible, and then you get this sense of like, competition. No, they're working with me. So it's not competition. It's okay. It's like that. It's a real push me, pull you kind of thing, being an artist and doing this at the same time.
Well, that's got to be exciting though. I mean, after being in the business for as long as you are, to be able to pull in a lot of young creators, new creators that are, have their own energy and excitement to your material or the material that Milestone helped develop. I mean, I don't know. I would think that's got to put a little zip in your step as far as like, being excited about the work again.
It's the best. It's really what it's all about. It's not a cliche. If you're not doing this to me, if you're not handing this stuff down, if you're not giving someone else a hand up, then why are you doing it? Like why am I here in this position doing stuff if I can't do that? Especially for artists and people of color and people who don't have the access to the big companies and stuff. So that's what this has really been all about.
You still think there's challenges out there for minorities and that sort of thing in the business?
Just like there's challenges for minorities in the world, in society. It's still like that in the business. It's not a business that's free of any kind of prejudice. It's certainly not a business that's free of that looking backwards nostalgia and wanting to keep things like they were in the 50s and having no room for any Black characters that aren't subservient or, like there's a whole movement in comics that wants to take things back to where they were. And that's never going to work. You can't go back to the way things were. The truth is the truth. It's here now. You can try to mask it. You can try to pretend like comics should be like they were in the 50s, but they're not. It's a whole new audience and it's a whole new world. So, so it's a constant fight. It's a constant battle for people. It's not like, African-American artists or artists of color are operating under some kind of oppression. It's not like that. But it's still challenges that a lot of their white counterparts don't have to face. That's just a fact, you know. So the Milestone Initiative was set up in part to help with that.
And Josh Flanders says, you're speaking the truth, Denys.
It's the truth. It's the truth.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I am definitely with you on that. Let's see. What else did I see in there? Somebody was saying they can't wait to get a commission from you for one day. Oh, there he is. Jeremy Roberts mentioned that in the chat. But I get you. You know, there was my friend Mikhail and Aranga. They did they're starting a series of interviews with creators who, you know, basically had to come from overseas, or, you know, coming to the American comic business from a different perspective. You know, what those challenges were. They did a thing with Sergio Aragonés that dropped yesterday, and it's a series of things that they both want to do. And I think, you know, that's important. We need more of those types of. I don't want to just say that they're interviews, but you know, documentations of the challenges that people face coming into this business or any business.
Absolutely. You know, one of my first stories in comics, not to drag this into this kind of stuff, but this is why this kind of thing is important. One of my first experiences in comics was I was working as an assistant to Rich Buckler, and he was encouraging me to show my stuff up at DC and, you know, and do this. I don't know if I told you guys this story before, but
no, not at all. I don't.
I'm like 16 years old, 17 years old. Trevor Von Eeden had just done Black Lightning. He just started Black Lightning, you know, so that was the atmosphere up at DC. And here I am with Rich, and I'm doing this work. And Rich said, okay, bring your stuff in and go see the art director of DC at the time. So I went in to see the art director. He's a big, I'm not even going to mention his name. If you look up late 70s, early 80s, art director, there's only been a couple at DC. And I walked in, I showed my portfolio, all eager with this real famous dude. You know, Rich was outside the office, but I was just in there with him. And he put my portfolio on his desk, and he flipped through the pages like this, just looked at him. Did barely look at him. Closed it up, handed it to me. The whole thing lasted 5 minutes. He said, "You're a good kid, but we already have a colored artist working here."
Wow.
That was my introduction into comics, for real. And I was so, like, I didn't know how comics worked. I didn't know anything about this guy or how he thought. I didn't know anything. So I was just like, oh, okay, you already got a colored artist working here. So I guess there's no place for me. And I walked out. And I went right into Rich. He said, "What happened?" I said, "I told him what happened, the blah, 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 colored artist." He was so upset. He went in there and cursed that dude out. And that dude was one of his employees. "Don't you ever speak to one of my guys like that again. What is wrong?" Like, I could hear it through the walls. That was my first experience, like, even dealing with an editorial, anything. That was the first thing. So it affected me. You know, after what affected me, because I'm thinking, is this the way all of them? Is this what I'm gonna have to run into every time? Now I'm like, you know, now I look around and there weren't a whole lot of Black artists except for Trevor, you know. But fortunately for me, I was very fortunate because I was rescued. Shortly after that incident, I'm still working with Rich, but some of Rich's best friends were Ron Wilson, Arvell Jones, Keith Pollard, this whole Black contingent from Detroit, and they all took me under their wing. And I ended up working with them too. And Ron Wilson, I ended up working with them too. And they taught me a lot. So I was kind of protected by the Black artists in the industry. And they taught me really what to do, how to act, how to be, how to get work, how to, you know, if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be having this conversation with you now.
How did they, you know, kind of guide you in that way? I mean,
you beat me up. Yeah, for real. I mean, I was working with Rich, but I was also working for Arvell Jones as his assistant.
Okay. Really? I don't think you've told me that before. Maybe I've missed that. Or, okay.
Yeah, I was working for Arvell Jones, and I was sharing a studio with Arvell. They lived in Left Rack City in Queens, and they all had an apartment that they had as a studio. So it was Arvell, Keith, Arvell's brother Desmond Jones, Aubrey Bradford was an inker back then, and Ron Wilson would always come by. So it was always filled with comics, Keith was doing the Fantastic Four and Thor at the time.
Right.
That great run, you know.
Oh yeah.
Bell was doing All-Star Squadron, I think. That's what I was working on with him. And Ron was doing, you know, Super Boxer and all that kind of stuff. So it was a perfect time for my 15-year-old self to be in there. But they taught it was great because they taught me how to do comics. They had me redo stuff. I never was good enough for Arvell to do his backgrounds, but he kept me anyway. And every time I got online, you're talking about like I'm 15, they're 20-year-old dudes. So it was always like some kind of, you're so stupid. Ah, it's great. Yeah,
you showed up. It's like you showed up again today. All right, well, we're
going to kick your ass again. Yes, perfect. It was perfect. So I owe those guys a great check. But I had the benefit of having that kind of atmosphere, and I don't know if that really exists as much anymore. You know, where a bunch of artists collectively are in a studio, and this is back when the business was in New York.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of artists had to be on the East Coast. There wasn't a lot of artists on the West Coast or in different states. It wasn't the same as it is now. So
yeah, we've talked about that a bit too. The artists from your period, had bullpens. They had the opportunity to kind of form studios and get together and kind of benefit from each other's knowledge. But today, with the way everybody works, working from home, everybody's remote. You don't get those kind of studio environments where you can chat with people and everything. So I'm sure lots of people do Zoom calls and look at each other's work and talk about it. But it doesn't seem to be, at least for me, to be the same dynamic as if you're sitting in a room together or in a space with 4 or 5 studios in it where you can just stand up and talk to the guy in the other space.
Yeah, when I met Arvell and Ron and all those guys and worked with them, that was my second experience at a studio. The crowd kind of blended in. The first time was I was working for Neil Adams at Continuity. So I was one of those guys who, I had that experience first with Neil and Ralph Reese and Larry Hama and Dick Giordano, when he was up there briefly, all that time. So I had that experience under my belt. And that was another bullpen, very exciting, learn as you go, mess everything up. People are screaming at you and banishing you to the back room. Don't ever touch any artwork again as long as you live because you messed this up so bad. I went through that a lot. I
stuck with it though. That's the thing.
I did. But so I had the benefit of having that a couple of times, that kind of atmosphere. And it was great.
So that's well, I'll never forget the Bilson Kevin intro story that we did the last time we talked.
True.
That was such a good story.
Yeah. Come over here and see how it's really done. God. See, me, but but good. Oh God.
Right. I mentioned this beforehand, but I did get lots of positive comments from people when they got the commissions that you and Bill did back in that we took in November. I think everybody had them before the end of January or something.
Yeah, we did it. Yeah. Because it was one of those things, like if you order a commission, it's constantly on my mind. I'm thinking like, oh my God, these people have ordered something, they paid for it, they're really waiting for it. We've got to get it done. So it was a real push, and we did it. We were very serious about that, wanting to get people some good art.
Well, I got nothing but positive, compliments when the art was received. So I wanted you to know that because we don't take commissions too often on the show. So that was definitely a unique moment with 2 people having to contribute to the commission.
I know, right, and then getting it done. But Bill and I have always gotten it done. So.
Right. I mean, because you guys have worked for so long together, and he must have you kind of have a shorthand with each other. I'm sure. I mean, he knows what to do when he sees your stuff, and you kind of know how much he needs, right, to finish off a drawing.
But the key, and this is the key for any aspiring artist out there. But the key for me and Bill has always been this: is really simple. I try to give him my very best. Whatever time constrictions I have or whatever's going on, I try to give him the very best stuff that I can, so he has something solid to work with, and he's inspired, to do it. He always gives his very best, So I try to give mine. So it's never a thing where it's Bill. We've done this before. We know what to do. I'll just fluff it off. I'll just do it. It's gonna look like Bill anyway. No. I'm nervous every page I give him. Swear to God, I want it to measure. I want it to be good, you know, and I want him to be like, oh man, I got a good page. Can I even really handle this? You know, of course you can, you know, but that's the attitude I take. And for over 30, 40 years we've been working together. It's been like that every page. You know, so that's the truth.
So, you know, going back in time a little bit though, what became of the you know, that studio where you and you know, with Ron Wilson stopping by, Avril Jones?
Well, that was like, you know, in the that was in the late 70s, early 80s, or whatever it was. And I think just people just went their own way. I mean, I eventually, probably shortly after that, started kind of getting my own assignments. I think, you know, I was like 17. I was 14 when I got into business, but I was like 17, 18 when I started getting my assignments. So the necessity of me going to that studio and doing that stuff, I didn't even have the time anymore. I was like, kind of doing my own thing. And plus, you know, you're young, you're just doing stuff anyway. So the studio didn't dissolve or anything and they kicked me out. It was just, I just kind of moved on. And they were doing their thing for a couple more years after that. So,
well, that is how things go. So, have you kept in touch with you know, like Ron and a few other those guys? I'm sure.
I'm in touch with Arvell. Ron and Arvell did something for Milestone.
Oh, did they?
Yeah. We did a book called Milestones in History.
Okay.
Where we bookended real tales from African history and African American history with our superheroes. So Ron did the story of Hannibal, and cool. Arvell did. I think he did the Black Swan. This Black Aviator. I think he did Black Aviator story for us, and we wanted to get Keith, but he was taking care of his mom, who was very ill at the time, so he couldn't really help us out. But oh yeah. Anytime I get a chance to work with Ron and Arvell, I'm taking it. They're still great.
That's exciting. I mean, to kind of keep the people that you've surrounded yourself with for 30, 35, 40 years in the business.
They worked with me.
Work with them.
Yeah, those are my guys. Always and forever.
Well, that's awesome. So, I mean, I don't know if we've ever talked about it. I mean, what was some of your first published work that, you know, was all your own when you were getting actual editorial assignments?
Oh my God, you're going to ask me to remember that. I was just telling my wife.
I don't have it up in front of me either, so I'm just
bad. This is so bad. I was talking to my wife the other day. We were driving, and I just looked at her, and I said, "You know, I've gotten to this point. I swear to God, this happened like yesterday. I said, I've gotten to this point where I honestly don't remember some of the stuff I've done." I said, like, someone will show me something, and I'll be like, "What are you showing me?" And they'll be like, "Well, you did this, you know, 30 years ago." And I'm like, oh my God, I did do it 30 years ago. I give you a good example. A good friend of mine who's an art collector. He might be watching this now. He was talking to me yesterday. A lot of things happened yesterday. And he says, hey, I got you, I got something for you. I got you a John Sable Freelance first edition artist print thing that IDW does. I got that for you. He said, you're going to love it. I said, oh, no, that's great. And he goes, you don't like John Sable? I said, no, I like John Sable. I said, I know. I really like him because I did a John Sable cover. He, on the other end, he goes, dude, you did like 2 issues of John Sable. And I was like, what?
You remember the cover, though.
Dude, what are you talking about? I did issues of John Sable. He's like, yeah, man, you did. He says, I have 2 of the pages. So maybe I did an issue or whatever, but he has the pages from it. I had no recollection of it at all. So here you are asking me,
what was your first? Well, like, you know, everybody remembers. You know,
I'll try to remember. Most of the early stuff was like weird war tales.
Okay.
And backup stories in the Flash. And backup stories in Superman. So there was like a thing called Superman 2020, right? Like Superman the year 2020, which was forever, you know, in 1979 and 1980.
Of course.
So I drew stories about Superman in 2020. You can look it up. There was weird mystery tales where this one dude who was like a Bruce Springsteen kind of musician at night was really a vampire and would, like, you know, he's really setting the audience up to, like, you know, kill them all. It's like all this kind of strange stuff that they would give me. Flash backup stories, you know, with Firestorm And so I did like stuff like that. They were all 8 pages, 5 pages, 7 pages back when they had those. And
now, were they giving you like multiples in a month, or were those like that
I
was
would
your
get maybe one a month. Maybe I
Uh-huh.
get 2 a month. But that's how they train artists, especially DC back then.
Yeah.
So Joe Orlando would give me all those assignments, and I would have to do them, and I would take them home to my home in Queens, do them, bring them in my grandmother's house, bring them back in, and he would take a piece of tracing paper, Joe Orlando, on every page, put a giant piece of tracing paper over the page with a giant black heavy pencil, and show me everything I did wrong. And then I have to take the tracing paper and my page, take it home and fix it, and then bring it back. There's a lot of training trips back and forth to Manhattan from Queens, but it was all worth it. But that's how they trained people. That's how I learned when I finally got into DC. You know, once I got past being one of the colored artists.
Exactly. Once they drop
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
But I mean, what kind of corrections were they giving you? Just more like figurative things or flow? I mean, that sort of stuff.
Perspective, storytelling.
Yeah.
How to place, shadows and light, black and white. Orlando was great. He's a great teacher. How the figures should move in space, how to make things more dynamic, sometimes less dynamic. Why are you breaking the panel border here? That's dumb. Is there a reason that this guy's foot is outside the panel? I don't know, understand. Like a lot of stuff like that. He was very patient in that old school Italian kind of way. Joe was exactly the opposite of the other guy who gave me that comment. So
interesting.
Yeah.
So what about the thought of placing word balloons? I mean, did they give you education in that as well? Because I'm always curious about that.
No, it's a very simple thing to place word balloons. Every time I've ignored it, I paid, but I haven't ignored it much. Joe Orlando taught me. Who else did it? Joe Orlando, Rich Buckler. Rich taught me a whole lot about storytelling. His whole thing was storytelling. He taught me so much. But it's very simple with word balloons. Put the word balloons in first.
All right, now that is like the last thing I would have thought of. I'm thinking imagery first, word balloons second.
No. If you can imagine a box, a panel, word balloons are just part of the design. They're just an element of the picture making, like anything else in that frame, in that panel. You may have houses, you may have figures, you may have trees, you may have some superhero figure doing something, right? All are just shapes. Howard Chaykin also taught me this. They're just shapes. They're just shapes. They're not things. They're just, you have to look at them as representative shapes. A word balloon is just another shape in the panel. But that shape has to work aesthetically and has to take up probably at least a good 1/3 of your panel in order for it to make it work. So you're kind of incorporating as part of your design and working around it at the same time. So anything that's important is not in back of the word balloon, right?
Yeah.
There'll never be anything in back of the word balloon because you're putting the word balloons in first. So, your picture making is dictated by that. That's a secret to word balloons. Just place them.
You've basically turned that thing 180 degrees then, maybe.
Yeah, then you work with what's left.
Here I'm thinking you're just trying to leave there's a space where you're not going to draw a lot of some machinery to the left of the figures because you need that room for the word balloons, but you're not going to think about it.
It's really part of the picture. Really part of it. And it's also why a lot of my word balloons you'll see are circular rather than especially I really started that in the question is circular word balloons because as a design element that was a lot more pleasing to me than that kind of oblong weirdo shape, sausage shape.
Interesting. Well, I've got a lot to look at over here too. I'll see if I see that while we're talking about the art.
You'll see.
Let's see. Let's hit a few questions here since I've seen a few. Steve Lipsky was curious. Did you have any mentoring from Dick Giordano? And I would assume a bit, right?
I got quite a bit of mentoring from Dick Giordano. Dick was the art director at DC after that incident. So you're talking about that's like 20 something, 7 years later or whatever it was. Dick Giordano, I had 2 incidents. I had a lot of incidents with Dick Giordano, but 2 were memorable. One was the first time I ever went to Continuity Associates. I'm 14. 15. I'm working for Rich. I'm wild, whatever. I'm going to the High School of Art and Design in Manhattan. And somebody I knew, maybe it was Joe Rubenstein or somebody, was working at continuity. And they said, oh, I'll bring you up to continuity. You can come up. So I went up to continuity right from high school, my, freshman year or whatever. And I went up to continuity. I'm hanging around. And I'm probably in the front office looking at Neil's stuff. And I remember being up there and they're doing Superman versus Muhammad Ali. Right. Wow. I saw the original art to that. I'm looking at Neil drawing all these likenesses. I'm going from office to office. Dick Giordano's up there. Neil is up there. Nobody knows who I am. I'm just this kid wandering around their offices. And finally, Dick Giordano looks at me and goes, who are you? Why are you here? And I'm like, Then I think he went to I said, Joe Rubenstein brought me up. He looks at Joe Rubenstein like, get this kid out of here. Why is he here? So I got kicked out of continuity my first time I was up there. And it did absolutely nothing to deter me. I thought it was the best thing in the world. I just got kicked out of continuity by Dick Giordano. This is the best. That was Dick Giordano kicking me out. So the next time I ran into him, I'm up at I'd run into him several times, and I don't even know if he remembered kicking me out. But I'm up at DC Comics. It's a Friday afternoon, probably 5:30. Nobody was really in the office except me. I'd probably been hanging around Andy Helper's office, where when he's one of the editors up there, I would just hang out in his office. I was doing a lot of different stories for DC at the time. If I wasn't doing the vigilante, backups things, I was doing V for Vendetta stories. I was doing a lot of whole complete comic books. I had finished Power Man and Iron Fist. I'd done the Black Panther miniseries, I think, at that point. I'd done a lot of stuff, but I was, whatever. And about 5:30 on a Friday, Dick Giordano calls me in his office. And I went to his office and sat down, thinking, why am I in Dick Giordano's office? But this is pretty cool. And then he starts telling me about some book, the characters that they got from Charlton, and they acquired this thing called The Question. And unfortunately, the guy who was going to do The Question had to bow out, and he just found out that day. And then he looks at me and he goes, would you be willing to do The Question? And I looked at him having no idea who The Question was or anything like that. Except I think I remember thinking, this guy's not even like a superhero. I got to draw clothes. So immediately I said, yes, I can draw The Question. No problem. I'll do it for you. He explained that Denny. Then he told me that Denny was the writer. No, he didn't tell me that Denny was the writer. This is what he did. This is a great story. This is what he did. He said, okay, you want to do it? I said, yeah. He says, okay, come on. We're going to talk to the writer. I'm like, well, who's the writer? Let's go. So he marches me down to Danny O'Neill's office, and my heart sinks. Because Danny O'Neill was my editor on Power Man and Iron Fist. And Danny O'Neill was one of those people who kicked my ass every issue because I never did anything right. And he kicked my ass for a good year and a half on Power Man and Iron Fist. And by the time that was done, I'm thinking, I'm never going to work with this guy again. All he does is kick my ass. I'm going to go and I'm going to be famous and do this and that and the other. So the first book I get at DC, my writer's Danny O'Neill. I walked in the office. He looked at me. I looked at him. I was just like, oh, my God. He was very nice, but I could tell he's like, oh, Jesus Christ, I'm stuck with this guy again. And check it out. For the next 3 years, he kicked my ass again.
Maybe that's just his style,
It was like I would hand in these pages trying to do my best stuff, and inevitably something would be wrong with one of them, something be wrong with the page, something be wrong with the panel. It was always something. Later on, I found out from Mike Gold. I was talking about, I'm like, I could never do anything right with you guys. Now you want me to do something else for you? He was asking me to do something else. I said, I sucked. He's like, no, you didn't. He goes, you were great. He goes, Danny and I just wanted to keep you on your toes and make sure that you were always going to be really good. That's why Danny did that. And I'm just thinking, y'all could have just told me.
So it was his style, at least with regards to you.
You know what that was? That was that old school editorial style. Mm-hmm. That was really old school. No one was mildly coloring you. Here's how you found out. And it's the total truth. Julie Schwartz was also one of my editors. Here's how you found out that you did a good job and that you were going to get another one. Total truth. I go in, hand in my pages. If he liked it, he'd open the drawer. He'd give me a check. because the check was there, and then he'd give me a script for the next one. And that's how you knew. That's the only way you knew. Nobody ever said, this was a great job and you're going to be one of our superstars. Nah. He just would open his drawer. Here's another 8-pager. Here's your check. Get out of here.
Well, they didn't want it to go to your head, I guess, right?
And it did not. It did not. No, not at all.
Yeah. That's tough, though. But, I mean, but you persevered through it. I mean, that's the thing. I mean,
yeah. Well, it's being tough. At the time, you don't know that it's tough. You just think that's the way it is, But it certainly sounds draconian if I describe it like this. Oh, my God. But it wasn't. It was awesome. It was awesome. I would not trade 1 minute of it for anything.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I'm just trying to picture working like that,
Yeah.
Knowing that you have you can work again next week. Here's another script.
I know.
But you don't know it going in if you're going to get that script.
Nope.
That's tough.
No idea. That's right. It made you really, earn your place, so that you didn't have to deal with that anymore,
So, hey, this is since you just mentioned it about the Superman versus Ali, Michael was curious if it was intimidating or inspiring to see that kind of work, being produced by Neil and continuity at that time when, it had to be pretty impressive.
It was mind-blowing. It was mind-blowing. It really was. And he was doing all those likenesses on the cover and stuff. And like he put the Jackson 5 in, he put everyone in. And I remember thinking, man, I'm up at continuity now. It'd be great if I could be in that. But no, I wasn't supposed to be on that cover. It was intimidating and inspiring. But working with Neil was both at the same time all the time. You're literally working with the best artists in comics at the time, and you're trying to copy him, and you're working with a bunch of other people who are trying to do like him. So it was intimidating and inspiring. It was both. It was cool to see, though. It was a big piece. The original art was not like a small, it was like a big giant board, and he drew over 200 likenesses on it. It was an incredible piece of work.
Can't even imagine that. So was he always always an educator, or always giving you life lessons? I mean, what was his?
Neil,
like that was his kind of a.
Neil taught me about comics mostly by indirection.
Uh-huh.
It wasn't like he would sit down and literally teach me how to draw a nose or teach me how to draw an arm or teach me. It wasn't like that's not the way he instructed. It was mostly trial and error. He would start you. Other people in the studio taught me more than Neil did, but Neil, his presence there and the fact what he would accept and what he would reject and how he changed his stuff when he went over it would teach you a lot too. A lot of us would just pencil the storyboards and pencil the animatics for Neil, trying to do it in his style. It didn't matter. You could just do it in your own style because he would turn it into his. And you would learn by put a piece of tracing paper over it, do his style over it, and fix up the drawing, do everything in Pentel pen, and just blow you away. That's how you learn. That's how you learn from me. At least that's how I learned. Just studying what he did,
Right.
And he would let me stand there and look over his shoulder until he got irritated that I was just standing there. And tell me to go sit down. He just looked like, go sit down. And I'm like, okay. Just try and sit down. And I still stare at him.
Hey, there was and we're obviously, I think a lot of the people who are in the audience know we've got some Deathlock artwork in the sale today. And Mikhail was curious, do you have any background thoughts that you can share when you started working on that series?
Well, it depends on what you want. I mean, I was up at Marvel. I don't know who was the editor. Bob Diansky was the editor on Deathlock at the time, and they asked me to do it. And again, it was like the question is one of those cases where the original artist on the miniseries couldn't finish. It was Jackson Geis, who is one of my favorite artists of all time. Butch Geis is an incredible artist, but he couldn't finish the second 2 issues of Deathlock, the miniseries.
Mm-hmm.
And they asked me to come in and step in. Dwayne McDuffie and Greg Wright had written it. And I just stepped in, determined to do my very best. And I did. Rick Magyar was the inker. I believe it was Rick. Who inked that stuff? Maybe it wasn't Rick. anyway, I did those 2 issues, and then they offered me the regular book after that as a series, and I eagerly took it. It was the first chance I got to work with Wayne or even know him. But it was incredibly one of my favorite assignments. One of my favorite things I've ever done has been Deathlock. But that's how it started. I started as a replacement artist for Jackson.
That seems to happen, I wouldn't say with a lot of regularity, but I do remember several, those 4-issue miniseries that started with one creative team and kind of finished with another.
Yeah, and that was one of them. If you look at the Deathlock miniseries, that definitely happened, and it was a big art style change. Because I'm not as good as Jackson. I had to fake everything. So
you can't describe yourself as faking it.
I had to fake everything after that. It's Deathlock. Oh my God.
Well, I will agree. I mean, Butch Geist is one of those people whose artwork I've always admired, and
he just got better and better and better, and now
still doing great work today. I mean, just amazing stuff. I agree.
Yes, one of my favorites.
So similarly, Mikhail asked, "What was Gregory Wright like? Did you collaborate much, or did you just?"
Greg and Dwayne collaborated on the writing. I would come in and hear the story ideas and stuff, and basically, to me, they were just a team, working together on it. So Greg was great. Greg is still great. He was an editor, colorist. He's done a lot of stuff. So, it was great working with Greg. But I did work with both of them personally, like Marvel style, where they tell me what they wanted to do, and then they write the scripts and give it to me.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Was that how do you feel you adapted to the Marvel style? Was it fun because you kind of got to?
Well, the first time I had to work Marvel style was from they give you a plot, not even like a plot. This is what happens between pages 1 and 18, and then you get paragraphs and paragraphs and paragraphs and paragraphs of what happens. I think I did that for a couple of jobs. It wasn't Deathlock. I did that for a couple of jobs, and then the third time that was offered to me, I handed everything right back. And I'm like, I can't do this. They're like, well, why not? And I said, because I'm doing the writer's job for them. Well, what do you mean? You have more artistic freedom and you could do this? I said, no, it's not more artistic freedom. It's more artistic work. I said, I have to figure out the pacing. I have to figure out the storytelling. I have to figure out who does what in what panel. You're not even really giving me dialogue, but you're telling me I can pace it to where I want it. I said, but no, this isn't going to work because what I want may not be what the writer wants. You need to give me a script, from now on. So I ended up working from full scripts from that point on. I just did not like working from plots and having to do that. What if I miss? What if I do something that the writer didn't even intend? And I got to do it again. It was like a thing. So I never enjoyed working that way, not because I couldn't do it, but because it just felt like a lot of extra work without a lot of extra pay. No one's paying you anymore to do all this extra work, and a chance to not even get it right. So I've always insisted on full scripts after that.
Yeah, no, I don't blame you there at all. I can't imagine what that would be like because you are effectively.
A lot of artists would say, "Oh man, so much fun! Don't give me a script, just give me a loose plot. I'll do the rest." I'm like, no. Give me a full script. I'll do the rest. Enough work after that.
Oh man, let's see. A few other questions came in while we were chatting and answering those other ones. Peter Rowe said, "Can Denys talk about when he first saw Sergio Topi artwork and its influence on your artwork? And then, given the importance of word balloon placement, did you have any favorite letterers?"
Yeah. Sergio Topi. Oh my God, when did I first see his art? I don't even remember how I was first exposed to it, except I remember when I saw it, it blew my mind wide open. And through that, I discovered a lot of other Italian, European, Spanish artists through Sergio Topi. But he's been a big influence on me, big influence on Bill, big influence on Walt Simonson, big influence on all the people I hold dear. We all have that through line in common. And Walt Simonson's been another big influence on me. But then I found out he was a big Sergio Topi fan. It all made sense.
Right.
Look, Lawnmower Man, the job he did called Lawnmower Man. If you want to see his true Topi stuff come out, that's a Pure Topia job by Walt Simonson.
I'm gonna, I kind of remember it, but
look it up.
Yeah, I'm gonna look it back. All right.
Also, given the importance of verbal place, do you have a favorite letterers? I have letterers that I really, really liked. I liked Gaspar Saladino. I liked, I think he was our letterer on The Question, and he did those circular word balloons. I like John Workman's stuff. Janice Chang is one of my favorite letterers, you know. I'm an old school guy. I liked Artie Simic. I liked Ben Oda. I liked all those kind of dudes, you know. Letters are the backbones of our industry. So, you know, they're vitally important. So I don't have a favorite, but I have some favorites.
Well, it's cool that I mean you see them as an important part of the process too, because it's funny, you know, as a reader back, you know, then and even probably even today. I mean, I would say, do I always look to see who you know was a letterer on a book, even when I'm looking at a book from the 70s or 80s, and you kind of skip over that. You know, you look who's the writer, pencil or inker, and then you're almost done.
People like, you know, skip over the colors in the letter then, right?
Right. So. Editor too. I mean, I couldn't tell you, but you just rattled off, 6 different names, and so clearly, you know, it's something that you always felt was important. I mean, you have to remember them because they're. That's so. Did you ever have any interaction with the letters? I mean, clearly, like you said, you're laying out the pages. You know where that content's going. But
no, not really. I mean, most of the time I just let them alone and just hopefully, you know, where I placed it gave them enough room to do their thing. I think the person I probably had the most conversations with has been Janice Chang, you know, on a personal level. She's a big Milestone fan. She's done all. She currently is doing some of our stuff. And Ben Oda was great. He should get the love. And I knew him. But she's the only one I really, you know, had a lot of interactions with. I'm trying to remember that it wasn't Gaspar. It was somebody else who did the question that I had a lot of. John Beatty. It was somebody else that I had some interactions with who was a really great letterer. His name will come to me. But no, all that's very important. Without the letterers, what are we? Just doing pantomime comics. You know?
Very true.
Yeah.
Let's see, what did Steve say? Steve said his the best letterers, in his opinion, are Costanza and Workman.
And John Workman. Yes. John Costanza's great.
So, when you had the Marvel or DC office party, did every, I'm sure they happened all the time. Were the letterers invited? I mean, were the colorists invited? I mean, did you have
everyone was invited to the office party?
All right. Well, I'm just making sure, because again, as a reader, you don't think about
they were like redheaded stepchildren to anyone, but the outside industry, like people didn't really pay attention to them, but inside the industry, we knew how important they were.
Right.
And they got to take on tons of work to make any money. So they're turning, hundreds of pages around, so no, they have our total respect.
Oh, that's interesting. I mean, and tragic at the same time, you think about that, we, long before we were art collectors, thinking about the comics and not really giving the due to the people who, like you just said, they were getting paid less.
Yeah.
So they had to work twice as much to make.
I really love typography and lettering and all that stuff. To have the patience to sit there and do that, you got to really love it. To do sound effects and to do all that stuff. And then you're in an age now where a lot of people are lettering by computer, and stuff like that. So it's a challenge in the industry. But the real ones always win out. The real talent always wins out. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So trying to think here if I had any. I had a bunch of notes, but now I'm not. I'm kind of gone off script from the whole thing. So currently, though, I mean, with the work that you're doing, I mean, do you still find that same energy when or enthusiasm if you were to tackle like a new character? Is that something that how would that ever even come about? I mean, do you have some projects that you'd like to do that you haven't kind of explored? And I'm just kind of curious what the future holds after like this big marathon of Milestone, moment, with the 30-year anniversary.
Right.
Where do you go from there?
Well, I'm still working on Milestone stuff, so I'm still I'm penciling Icon versus Hardware, for Milestone, and so that's occupying some time. After that, there are a number of projects that I have, and I don't know if there's going to be an after Milestone, or I think it's more of a continuation.
Mm-hmm.
What else am I going to do other than Milestone is the real question. So I have a couple of projects, one with another project with Bilson Kevin, that in fact we're going to jump on the phone Monday and kind of hammer out all the details about it. It's going to be a very exciting thing once announced.
Cool.
Yeah, I can say it's a mini series graphic novel stuff. So there'll be a lot of pages.
Oh,
and
wow.
It's all new property, all new thing that Bill and I are doing. So we're excited about that. I'm working on a graphic novel right now for John Jennings and Charlie Kochman's imprint over at Abrams Books, over at Abrams Arts. So I'm doing a story called The Middle Passage, based on the novel by Charles Johnson, written by Reggie Hudlin, based on a novel. And I'm busy also while I'm working on Icon, penciling and drawing that. I'm about 70 pages in. So
Wow.
It's a big, massive project that nobody's even seen. So I'm doing that. And there's other stuff, there's always covers and stuff that people are asking me to do. So I try to get as much done as I can.
Well, that's impressive. I mean, on that project, is it pencils only, or doing inks as well?
On the thing with Bill, I'm just doing the pencils.
Yeah.
Bill would be doing the inks because the publisher wants that whole look, and
cool. Well, maybe that'll give us a reason to get you both on camera again.
Yeah, right. Well, as you know, Bill has like 30 years of my art. Because
that's what we talked about.
Yeah, because he would ink it, and then it would just be at his house. I knew where he was. I knew where it was. So I didn't even see some of that stuff until we had our online sale, and I was over at his house like the day before or whatever. And I'm looking at this stuff. He's just bringing out boxes of work that we did for so long ago. And I'm just tripping. I'm like, you got all this stuff? I should have taken it with me back then, but I know where it is. He's good.
Exactly. Well, at least you guys live close enough that you can get together. But no, that sounds exciting. I mean, anytime that a graphic project like that sounds, I don't know. I'm looking forward to it. I mean,
the thing
new IP and everything
is going to be a big deal. The Middle Passage thing, that may be also what you're asking about. I'm just penciling that. A guy I work with, a guy named Don Hudson, who's an amazing artist in his own right. He works with me on my comics. Is going to be inking that. So, So that's I just get to pencil both of them. I have to pencil and ink anything like that. Get real good people to do it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And I guess here's a good question from Chris Lutz, if you can talk about the answers to that. But he said, any what if stories about big projects that got away and never materialized?
Oh my God.
I was having a feeling like with your time in the business that there's probably more than you can count. But.
Okay, I can give you two big things that got away that I actually did a lot of work on that never materialized. One is Sam Hamm and I were going to do another Batman story after Blind Justice. 10 years later, we got together and we were going to do a story called Do Cards War. That Liam Neeson's character. We were going to do a whole thing on, and we did it. I did like a whole issue and a half of it. It was like big. It was like double page spreads. It had like wraparound covers and stuff. Batman. It was actually Batman in Afghanistan. Swear to God. It was trippy. And just for some reason it fell apart, and I don't think Sam was able to finish it, and it just went the way of all things. So I still have a lot of that artwork just laying around. I did, Paul Levitz and I were going to do a story called Batman Mortality, and it was all about Batman dealing with the 5 stages of grief in each story and how he dealt with it, supervillain, superhero wise. Mm-hmm. And I did like 3 issues of that, or at least 2 issues of that, inked by John Floyd. drawn by me. Never saw print. So I still have these pages here. There's a bunch of stuff like that I just started and just never went anywhere. Projects with Michael B. Jordan, all kinds of stuff.
Dang.
Yeah,
That's gonna be frustrating though. You get all excited, geared up for a project like that, and then to kind of have it just dissolve. I mean, it's obviously you had other work to do, but I mean,
I always had other stuff to do. It can be frustrating, but it's like you approach everything the same. There are no jobs that I think that are more important than others, or stuff that's not going to happen, and maybe this will happen, maybe this won't. I go into the attitude that I just try to give it my best every time I try in everything. So it never occurred to me that it wouldn't work out. I never thought that it would work out. I'm just doing the work, So I think that's helped me in a way, because when things didn't happen, I just kept going on to whatever I was working on. I didn't stop and reflect, man, I'm so disappointed. I put in all this work and nobody's ever going to see it, or blah, blah, blah. I just put my blinders on and keep going. It's only when I have conversations like this that I start thinking about what could have been, but I have drawers full of stuff that nobody's ever seen, of complete whole jobs. Bill and I have done 2.5 issues of a comic book no one's ever seen. Bill and I have done it. 2.5 comic, no one's ever seen it. Covers and everything. It was for Dark Horse. No one's ever seen it. I don't know if anyone will ever see it, but it's pretty hot. If people look it up and look far enough back, they can probably find out what it was. But it was a while ago. Nothing was done on it. And then, hold on, there was another Batman thing I did. There was a whole nother Batman story that I did, and you can see this character. It was like kind of a Milestone interpretation of Batman. I did like a whole 1.5 issues of that. And Bilson Kevin that. No one's ever seen it. So it's like 20 or 30 pages of that stuff. No one's ever seen it. There's a lot of stuff like that,
That's frustrating to know that works out there, and no one's probably ever going to get to see it. So.
Now, I thought about even putting some of it online, or from the archives, the unseen stuff, and I'm like, who'd be interested in seeing that stuff? It's unseen. Maybe it should remain unseen. So then I don't put anything up, because it's like,
No, of course there would be a lot of interested people, both art collectors and people, readers and fans of your work. I think at the end of the day, but that's because we're fanatical at the end.
Your fans.
We don't get enough at the, as I think the way we would all approach it. But yeah, Kyle says you should John Byrne those stories. Just put them all together, put them out there, and see what happens. But yeah, I mean, it sounds like you have more than you care to remember at the end of the day.
I have a lot, just starting to talk about it now. I realize there's been a lot of stuff like that,
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, listen, we're at about the hour mark. We could probably swing over and start doing the sale, and we could talk about the artwork and pieces that we've got here. I mean, but before we do that, I mean, what's on your drawing table right now? I remember it seems like every time we do a chat, you've got something that you can show us that you're working on currently.
What can I show? Because I do.
And just so everybody knows, I did ask Denys if one day he'll play some music for us, and he has graciously said that he will not.
No, I'm not going to subject anyone to anything like that. Let me see what I have. I told you I've been working on like Icon versus hardware.
Mm-hmm.
I'll show you some pages in that, and see if we can see them. I don't know if you can see them, because they might get blown out.
Oh, sweet.
That's a reveal that you shouldn't even see. So this is another page from Icon versus Hardware. Let's see. Oops, there it is. Can we see it? No, it's getting blown out.
Yeah, you have to dip it.
Oh, there it is. There it is. Right.
Nice.
It's all pencil.
You do really put in the finished work. You know,
Yeah.
it's nothing left to chance.
No. Well, I try not to. Here's a couple of other pages from. Yep. Here's another one. This is just basically conversations between Curtis and Arnis, who is Icon before he becomes Icon. Here's a couple of pages from. Here's a couple of pages from a Middle Passage.
Oh, that's nice.
That's a Middle Passage page. Here's another one. You know, it's all like costume period stuff that takes place in the 1800s on slave ships.
Mm-hmm.
So it's quite the story. It's quite so. It seems like to find.
On Middle Passage, are you going to have the pencil pages inked, or do you send those out to get blue lined?
They'll probably be blue line.
Okay.
They'll probably blue line those. Let me see what else I have. I'm looking. Can't see them. I'm off camera because I'm looking at a drawer full of pencil pages. Like here's some from Icon versus Hardware #2. I just have them all here. Eek.
There it is.
You know, just like a lot of fun. Here's one. This book is out now.
Oh, that's slick.
It's a lot of fun. Every time I draw stuff like that, I always feel slightly silly because I'm like, man, I've been doing this for all these years and I'm still drawing superhero poses. Yeah.
Well, you know, that's what you want.
Like I just feel slightly silly sometimes, but it's still a lot of fun. So,
well, if it's slightly silly, then you know, then all of your fans and readers are into slightly silly stuff.
Yeah, right.
But where would we be without that, though? At the end of the day, without comics,
I know
storytelling.
Really cool. No, I'm a grown man, you know, playing at a kids thing. So I'm very, very, very fortunate.
Yeah, that's awesome. Jerry Bourne wanted to know about who to send pencils to get blue lines. I mean, typically, Jerry, I would assume Denys is scanning the pencils there and then sending the files.
Yeah, I scan the pencils, 300, 400 DPI. You know, so it's a good, solid, very rich scan, and then I just send the JPEGs to Bill or to John Floyd or to whoever's inking it if we're using that method, and they'll print it out on blue line, and then ink my pencils right over the blue line. Blue lines never show up in print, but they're great for inking and for for manipulating art. So that's how that works. So I end up having a lot of my pencils here. You know, and I get to keep them.
All right. Hey, one last question before we jump into the sale. Michael Rock wanted to know, aside from Bilson Kevin, is there another inker that you'd really, or that you really like that inks your work? I know you've had quite a few inkers over the years.
I've had everybody, and it's been awesome. I love what Bill does. I love what Klaus Janson. When Klaus and me worked together, you know, we did the Black Panther thing together, and then we did a Batman miniseries together, and it's just been awesome. It's just been awesome. I like what Tom Palmer did when him and I worked together. I've worked with the very best, you know. So I like what Dick Giordano did. Him and I did the Detective comics, Detective 598 to Detective 600. You know, Dick Giordano those, and they were just a masterclass on how to do comics for me. You know. So there've been a few. I love what John Floyd does. You know, he's great. He was Barry Windsor Smith's inker, and I thought, man, anyone work with Barry Windsor Smith, I know how tough Barry is. You know, has got to be awesome, and of course, John Floyd has been awesome. So I get to indulge my Barry Windsor Smith drawing fantasies, working with one of his inkers. But those guys have been great. I like inking myself, actually. I know what I want at this point. I know what to do, you know. So I'm one of my own favorite inkers on my own stuff. But yeah, those are some of my guys who've been great.
So when you do your own inking, are you more a brush guy, pen, or whatever
You know,
the art?
whenever I'm the worst person to ask about technical things when it comes to inking, because I literally will pick up anything that I have. And if it can make an ink line work, then work. And sometimes I'll get to the point where I'm supposed to ink something and I realize, oh my God, I don't have the right pen. I don't have the right this, I have the right that. None of that makes any difference. You should be able to pick up whatever and do something, you know? And I'm one of those people, like, if you could see, can't really see it, but like, I gotta, this is my, art. Like, this is one of my pens. I don't know what this is. It's like a thing. I got pencils in here. I've got the most motley setup.
That's the smallest tool chest I've ever seen for an artist.
Yeah, it's terrible. I've got another one that's just full of I don't know if I can even lift it up because it's so full of junk. Okay, let's see if I can do it. This right here. Here's my advanced artistic setup. Pretty good. It's got a knife and fork in there. Right? This is as fancy as it's ever going to get.
Not bad. Oh man. Well, one last question here, Denys, because I don't know the answer to this. Have you we know Bilson Kevin he's inked many different pencilers as well. But have you ever done a lot of inks over pencilers? I mean, clearly early in your career you were doing a bit, but
not very much. You know, ironically, I think I may have done it once or twice. One of the times I remember is I inked a Jackson Geist cover for Deathstroke. So I got a chance to collaborate with him, and I probably messed the whole thing up, but I remember having such a great time, you know, doing stuff. So you could probably find that cover somewhere. But I haven't really inked a whole lot of people that people have seen.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've done a lot of commercial work and stuff that people haven't seen, where I had to just, you know, somebody else laid it out, someone else drew it under my direction. And I just did a Neil Adams and just went over it in pen and, you know, traced it off and did that. But
sure.
But not a whole lot. Not a whole lot over other people.
Well, right. I didn't think so. I was trying to remember, because I have looked over your the list of work that you've done, and I think in most cases you're always the primary artist.
Yeah, drawer. Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that. Let's see. Someone said the Tron World said the best advice Denys ever gave me regarding inking: if you make a mistake, to ink it out. So let's dive into the art sale. How about we do that? Let me show the slides that define how we're handling the sale today, everybody. I mean, I showed them at the beginning, so we'll just go over them really quickly again. You know, claims are happening in the chat. I know every time we've had Denys on the show before this, it was an email where you were sending it to me. That's not the way you're doing it today. You're going to put your claim in the chat. Just type the word claim and the lot number that you see. There'll be 19 lots today, so just put the word claim, you know, and the number 1 after it, and we'll know which one you're talking about. Since there are 19 lots, I know a lot of people kind of like to see what's there before making a claim. So you can claim any of the lots at any time after we've shown them on screen. And if you do claim any artworks, you need to email me after the show, bill@comicartfans.com. You got to let me know which art lots you've claimed. Include your mailing address when you do that. And also, please tell me which payment method you want to use, so we don't have to go back and forth on that. And as far as payment goes, to answer that question, payment, it can be done via PayPal with a credit card or that sort of thing. But if you do use PayPal, there is a 4% fee if you're in the US and 5.5 if you're international. There's no fee with Zelle, and I do have a Venmo account as well, so we could use either of those options. And shipping is $30 domestic and $65 international. It's not included in the prices of the artwork you see today. And of course, we combine on shipping. So if you pick up multiple pieces, it will all ship together. All of the art is in hand with me right now, right beside me. And as I saw some people posting on Facebook today, stuff that I sold on Sunday is already in their hands. So that's kind of the good thing about the way we have this set up. We get the art out really quickly. We expect payment within 48 hours on all of the artworks that you'll see today. So follow that. You'll have the art by Friday or Saturday or next week. And we do ship in Masonite, so all the artwork is packed really well. And that's the thing we take the most pride in. So again, anybody who's gotten a package from us knows it's pretty solid. So without any other further ado, we'll take a look at some of the stuff. Now, before I do have we're going to do the Deathlock pieces first, Dennis, and I do appreciate that you dug these out. So I'm sure you had to dust them off. Fine.
Yeah.
Because, we've got what do we have? 7 lots from Deathlock. They're all done on 13 by 19. I didn't write that on the slide
because we had to work oversized because those were done right for the giant format, prestige format things.
Yep.
So they're huge pages. They're not 11 by 17. They're like giant. I remember taking them out, going, "What am I dealing with?
Why?
Why?"
Yeah, no, I get it. I mean, I'm sure it's a little bit daunting, but the thing is, as a collector, they're cool to have. I mean, it's nice. Not many of us can collect the oversized artwork from the 60s, right? I mean, I think I only have one piece of oversized artwork. So to get, this kind of era of artwork, it's 13 by 19. It's just unique, cool to see, cool to handle.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But again, I appreciate the fact that you did dig these out because, we had talked about that after the last show. It's like, let's see if we can get some vintage stuff.
I found some, so.
Well, they're all good. They are very good. So like I say, we're starting off with the Deathlock. So we'll just go straight with that. And we're not going like dollar wise, low to high or anything like that. With the Deathlock pages, I'm doing them chronologically. So the first lot that I'm going to show you is lot number 1, and it's page 6. And it actually is a bit of a retelling of Deathlock's origin. Mike Manley inks on this one. It's priced at $900. I mean, just fun stuff here. Again, this is from the first issue. So you had already done the what was it? You finished off the miniseries, so then you were jumping into this.
Right.
How? Was it exciting to kind of know that you were going to be on the book for a while, and have that run in front of you?
It was very exciting. I mean, it was very exciting. One, it wasn't my first Marvel book because I had done Power Man, Iron Fist, and the Black Panther miniseries, but it was a character that I really felt strongly about because one of the first guys I worked for, Rich Buckler, created Deathlock. And it was my chance to work on a character who I just loved, and to put my own stamp on it, like my former boss. So it was great. And then I got to do a #1 issue, first issue #1. That was a lot of fun. Mike Manley was a fantastic inker at the time, very much in like a Al Williamson kind of mode in a lot of ways, very classic. Inking style. But no, I remember, this is one of the things I do remember doing is Deathlock. So.
Well, this is cool. And like you said, you were stepping into Buckler's in a way, right? I mean, as a mentor, that must have been.
And then we had to work on these large, oversized paper. And I was used to it by this point because I had done it with the miniseries. So, it was just continuing that.
Well, I want to thank Justin Porter for being the first to claim that one. So thank you, Justin.
Thank you.
And
Justin.
I did see somebody asked about checks. I have no problem having a check sent to me because again, people wanting to avoid the fees, I'm totally fine with that. But just be sure it's in the mail on Monday. That way, I can have it by the end of the week. And because my goal is really to ship things out in less than a week. But I don't mind waiting for a check if that we're all on the same page that you're going to get it in the mail Monday morning. So it's it's on the way. That's all I ask for. You don't have to send it registered or anything like that. I trust you, but that's all I ask. All right, well, let's keep this thing rolling then. No problem. Corporate Law Group. It's we've got 6 other Deathlock pages to look at here. So the next one, let's see, is lot number 2. This is priced at $650. It is actually I left it. It's not from issue 1. It is actually from issue 2. So that's my mistake on the slide, and it is page 4. I screwed that up. But this is Manley inks as well. I just like the page, and everybody has to remember lettering is on the page, right? This is so nice to have artwork with the actual word balloons on here.
Yeah, the lettering's on the page, just like the complete thing, with all and also the editorial. Remove the red lines. This is page 4. Not Dennis's crappy Deathlock lettering, but the real stamp, is up there. But this is also one of the pages that I did where I was heavily looking at a lot of European art, a lot of Italian artists, Battaglia, Topi, and people like that. So when I did the I really wanted a chance to draw Deathlock in that cloak thing so I could use some of those techniques that I was messing around with, and I did. That was cool. Didn't help his appearance or anything. I mean, he's still like a giant monster, but there you go.
Right, and he's kind of lamenting the fact that he looks like a giant monster in
No,
that page.
I know.
And I just want to show everybody, regular size page versus the
right,
the larger page. Yeah, a little bit more work, a little bit more art there for you.
Yeah.
But congrats to ML Mikhail for picking that one up. That is a nice one. And again, the dialogue on that one was a lot of fun.
Yeah. And what year are these from? Because you probably looked it up.
91.
There you go.
Yeah. So yeah,
wow.
This is.
Wow. I was gonna say like 96 or something, but 91.
Oh, 91, 32 years old. Dennis. Yeah. I was talking with Adam Kubert on Sunday when we did an art sale.
Here's another great artist.
And he said it's hard hearing people say, I grew up on your artwork, when you realize that, and they're like, and the person in front of you is in their 30s or 40s and they've got a kid next to them, and you realize, wow, I've been in the business long enough that.
Right. I can go even further than that. I've had people who grew up on my artwork who are my age. Why? Because I started when I was 14 or 15 or 16 doing stuff, and they were reading comics when they were 16, 17, right? So we were all put together, and they're like, man, when I was a kid, I would read your comic books. I'm looking at this grown-ass man, like, how was you a kid reading my comic books? But yeah, I was a kid drawing them. So,
wow.
Yeah, it is disconcerting, though. It's weird. It's weird. It's a weird feeling. I grew up your stuff.
That's what you get for being, so prolific and in the business for so long.
Right.
I did see another question here, Mikhail, who just picked that piece up, wanted to know if they could pick it up at Heroes. I am going to Heroes, and I do have a few other pieces of art I'm delivering for people there. So for anybody who is also going to Heroes, I do not mind not charging for shipping and hand delivering the art at Heroes. I mean, it's I don't have a problem with that. I will be there for all. I get there on Thursday, so I'm there Thursday through Sunday. So we can certainly arrange doing a drop off that way. Not a problem. All right, keeping this thing rolling. We'll take a look at lot 3 next. We're moving up to, let's see, this is issue number 7. This one's got the Punisher in it, which I thought was pretty darn awesome. Mike Manley inks on this as well. This one's priced at $1,250. This is page 2 to that book. And I mean, I looked, I hadn't read this book in a while, so I went back and I found a place where I could read it online and went through it. I mean, the art in this particular book was just great. I mean, you must have been having a lot of fun doing these stories.
I did. And, this is a time when I think I was trying to operate on all cylinders, in that I was trying to just give every panel some impact, every frame something. Like that last panel was always one of my favorites. I always loved drawing his gun belt and stuff because it was always loose and would never work in real life, but always look cool in pictures. Plus, I got a chance to do the Punisher. So it was Deathlock versus the Punisher. What else could you possibly want? It was an amazing time. And I don't really like a whole lot of my work, but I still like these pages. I think these.
You really have that kind of a critical eye of your work.
Yeah. You can ask my wife. Like, I wish I could take a remote camera. I could take you downstairs to my house and show you. I have boxes and boxes and boxes. You get the free comic books from DC and from Marvel when you do books.
Right.
I have boxes and boxes and boxes of comics that I've done that I've never opened. I can't. If I open them up and I look at it, I'll start seeing all the stuff I did wrong. I just can't look at it anymore. Oh. So it's only like years later that I can look at stuff and go, you know what? Wasn't that bad. So like I'm able to look at that Deathlock Punisher stuff now and go, you know what? That was okay. It only took 30 years.
Well, no, the work is really special. I mean, it brings you back to that period in comics, whether late 80s, early 90s, and the storytelling. I mean, I was a Marvel guy, and this stuff it's incredible. And I have to say, even this next piece, it's just one of my favorites, just because there's just so much action in it. There's a lot of ink on here. It's just dynamic, and then the word balloons add so much, and and the word balloons are drawn on, except for the ones that are the little computer voice, right? That
which can peel off. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, we'll just go ahead and show this one. This is lot 4 from that same issue. It's page 12. Punisher's not on it, but this thing is just crammed with action. And I mean, and it's funny, this is a period in time where I sometimes didn't really like the coloring, but the coloring really works well with the way, with the style of the book.
Yep, they really did. They really did their thing on this one. It was interesting on this page because I was drawing like a Deathlock versus a Deathlock kind of guy.
Yeah.
So I remember thinking, I have to make them different enough, but how do I do that when they both look so kind of the same? What do you do? But I managed, on this page, I think my favorite panel was panel 2.
Where oh my God, yeah.
Yeah. And it's like pieces are flying off of him. It's like, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, when I wanted to blow this image up, I just wanted to focus on panel 2, but I'm like, I can't fit that in a way that we can just look at that, because that one panel, I mean, the whole thing is fantastic.
And you can also look at this and see my influences so clearly. Like that second panel, that word balloon placement at the bottom, not the word balloon, but the sound effect placement at the bottom and all that, pure Walt Simonson. Rip that right off from him. All that kind of repeating sound effect at the bottom in a design kind of element. Yes. Yeah, you can see it like clearly. And then also 1, 2, 3, 4, panel 4 was the same kind of thing with the rumble in the background. Right. As a sound effect, as a picture in the panel, That's just nuts. Yeah, I got all that from Mr. Simonson.
Wow. Well, it's yeah, like I said, this is my favorite page of all of them, just because of the action and the execution, the layout, the panel layout's fantastic. I saw Steve Crow has picked it up, so congrats, Steve. But yeah, this is a really, really beautiful page.
Thank you. No, it's one of my favorites. It's a good one.
And a great lead in. You've got Silvermane kind of coming in there right at the tail end, so you just see his hand. Yeah, so great storytelling there. So let's we'll just roll into the next one here, lot 5. This is I think the last 3 pages are all from issue 11. So this is page 7 from that. It's priced at $800. Mike's inks on this one as well. And again, I still look back to the coloring on this stuff, and I'm thinking, man, it's I like it. It's done really well, but it's all because of the great composition and the storytelling. I mean, that third panel with the way the word balloons are put on there for with his the voice in his head kind of thing going on. I mean, it's just slick. I mean, and the composition again, now it's starting to make more sense, Denys. Now I can start feeling like I can actually talk with some level of authority. I see this and I think Denys laid out these word balloons first.
Right. You can see it. I did. Yeah. And sometimes most of the time that worked out. Sometimes it didn't work out, but most of the time there was enough room for everything. Now, the interesting thing about this is it's not embarrassing. It's actually good. It's done in an entirely different style than the first ones that we saw, with Silvermane and with the Punisher. And I did that on purpose. One is that I was very influenced by Alex Toth at this time, Hugo Pratt, Mike Mignola, all those guys who was doing stuff like in that black and white style. And I wanted to get away from doing a lot of line work and a lot of cross-hatching and line work, which was like, okay, you can do a lot of that stuff, but what's your drawing like underneath? Is it solid? Is it real? If you didn't have those lines, could you still tell a good story? Could you still do a good picture? Well, all those artists I mentioned before managed to do that without having a whole lot of cross-hatching or shading or whatever people call it going on. They dealt with black and white and images. So I was determined over however many issues it took to learn that kind of style, to do that kind of thing, to see where it led me. And it was just like, it was a trip. But also, people at Marvel were just pissed because they were like, they were like, you drew it in this kind of style. And it was, why are you drawing it like in this other kind of style? I'm just like, I just have to follow my artistic muse.
The funny thing is, and I wasn't going to say anything, but I was going to say, I see a little Mignola in that.
Yeah.
In this issue versus the earlier stuff in the way you're handling the black. So I'm glad because I wasn't going to ask. I was like,
you always ask. No, it's so obvious. You know, it was not drawn like the other ones, but I was really pushing myself to learn that style, so that later on I can just incorporate that kind of thing into my own work. But I would understand it.
Well, I mean, and it really, these last 2 pages are from the same issue, so I think everybody's going to see that same kind of vibe that you were working with.
Yeah.
So, well, so congrats to ML on picking up lot 5. We'll take a look at lot 6 now. This is from the same issue. It's page 9.
Yeah.
And again, you look at that the figure of Deathlock in the lower left. I mean, and no one. It's really hard to tell even from this scan. Just there's a lot of fine work actually in this as well. I mean, all the cross hatching. I mean, there's some really interesting detail in there. But again, that like you were just talking, the heavy black and white and trying to tell the same story with a little less detail really kind of comes through in this piece.
And nothing, nothing to hide behind. No fancy cross hatching, none of that stuff. This story was going to work. This art was going to work on its own merits. And hopefully, I think I succeeded to a certain extent. I was never going to be like a Mike Mignola or Alex Toth or Hugo Pratt or any of those kind of guys, but I can learn from what they did and apply it to my own work. And that's what I was trying to do. But it was hard. I remember that too. It was not easy. What those guys do is remarkable, because what I do with the lines is easy to fall back onto it. I could just do some fancy cross hatching. I could do this and any other. But if you don't have that to hide behind, you're just telling the truth, or you're not successful. So it was a big learning curve.
Well, I mean, you and with Mike Manley's help, I mean, definitely pulled it off.
Yeah. But I remember Bob Budiansky coming to me being upset. Do you have to draw it in this style? I mean, this is not what people were used to. I have to do it. I think later on I went back to, drawing.
Right. But, that's where the things like, the continuity that kind of follows through is from the colorists and the letterer and all that. So even though your style's, fluttering, changing a little bit.
You're still going to get a lot of what they got before just because your team hasn't changed. And they're still they're still bringing all those elements that they bought before.
Exactly. So even though you're experimenting, everybody else is sticking, with their thing. So it's not like
everyone else is trying to make it good. So there you go.
All right, well, let's go ahead and take a look at the last Deathlock lot we've got here. This is lot number 7, priced at $900. This is page 11 from that book. And, again, this one's got a lot of great action in it, and that same kind of feel where you're really kind of working with the blacks and whites here. I mean, again, that last figure, last panel, so nicely done. And again, a lot of stuff gets broken in these storylines.
Yeah, there was a lot of fighting, a lot of tech. A lot of things exploding, again, I was wearing my influences right on my sleeve a lot. Is this lettering? This lettering's done on the page too, right?
Yes, it is lettering on the page, and except for the computer, the rounded corners ones are pasted down, of course.
Right.
I have to show Justin Porter to get this this page.
Oh. Great.
Just ahead of Alberto. I'm sorry, Alberto. I know you were trying on a couple of these and came in second on a couple of these each time. But Justin Porter was the first one in there outside of that pre-claim that before we even showed the art. But again, tell me what were you going to say about this one, Denys?
Nothing. It's just that no, I said pretty much all I had to say. I mean, this is part of continuation of a fight. And again, when you're dealing with this kind of thing with lack of cross-hatching details, everything you do has to be pretty precise and it has to work. So again, this is one of those pages I'm looking at it now. I'm like, not too bad. I think I did my thing. It worked. Page 11. Yeah.
But no, well, congrats on everybody. I mean, I knew the Deathlock pages were going to be of interest to people, but that's good to see, right, Denys? I mean, we know, I always felt like there was some stuff that you figure this is the first time people are even getting a shot to own these pages. You've had them for 32 years. Yeah.
And I have like a stack of this.
Right. So we'll try to keep, maybe, if when we do one of these again, we'll try to bring in some vintage pages to go along with some of the more modern pieces and keep everybody happy.
Yes.
But yeah, let's keep it going, because this next piece, this was one that, as everybody knows, we used to have somebody else fulfilling the artwork, and they shipped me the artwork that hadn't sold. And in those 8 or 9 pages was this sketch, and I had to go back to Denys and say, we never tried selling this. Where did it come from? So I think maybe it's somehow you drew the sketch, and it just got.
I think I drew the sketch and it got slipped in.
Right, accidentally, and so because
I'm gathering stuff up,
right.
and trying to ship it, because usually, if I'm shipping stuff to you guys, I'm late. You guys are calling me like, yeah, we really need that stuff. The auction's in 3 days. The sale's in 3 days. Where is it? So I'm scooping stuff up in my studio, really quickly, and I'm going through really fast. And I got it. Okay, let me go to FedEx and get it. And I think that was just slipped in.
Just made it in there. Well, so it made its way to me, and I made sure that this was something that we could sell. And because it's in line with the first 7 pieces, we have this Deathlock commission. It's on 11 by 17. It's on more of a bond style paper, so a little bit lighter, but perfectly flat. You can see there's a tiny bit of whiteout in some areas around the face, but this is on like I say, it's 11 by 17, priced at $500. And this is what we were doing those 11 by 17 commissions for, like from one of the first shows. So very fairly priced, and this is a wonderful piece here. And again, if done, it looks like it was dated August 22, which I guess, I'm not sure how this made its way over to.
I have no idea, like how you guys got that, even with the whiteout on the face, me trying to fix my mistakes.
But yeah, well, and I'm just looking at the dates, because you figure this had to have gone over there in the Sienkiewicz art, because our first shows last year were in March and July. Yeah. So this art is dated August. Somehow when the artwork for Bill and you got sent over, that it got in there. But I'm glad it did, and I can say
right. That's amazing.
Playing this one.
Well, it's one of those pieces that I did, and I ended up redoing it because I was like, I can get this better, I can get that better. But I'm glad you have it. So
Caesar will be the new owner of that one. So congrats to them on that one. All right, so I think we're shifting a little bit here. We're still sticking with some Marvel pieces. We do have two Marvels, and then I think we swing over to mostly DC stuff to round things out. So these are the two priciest pieces that we have. The first one here is lot number 9. This is the cover pencils to Captain America, Black Panther, Flags of Our Fathers. It's priced at $2,250. So this is cover 3 pencils. There are inks out there somewhere, I know. And the funny thing on here is I know it was noted that Klaus was supposed to ink these, but I don't think he ended up being the inker. I think it was Florian, maybe, or I had to go back and
did Florian ink the cover?
I think he did I think they did on both of them too, even though it's noted, I know when you drew it, you had noted Jansen on them, but these things are just unbelievably gorgeous.
Thank you. Yeah, probably because Klaus is supposed to ink. These are the 2 issues that Klaus is supposed to ink that Tom Palmer ended up inking, right? So Klaus inked the first 2 issues and did the covers to the first 2 issues with me. And I thought he was going to do the other ones too. So I put his name right in there. But yeah, these are some of my favorite covers, really, that I've ever done. It was like such a thrill to work on this series with Reggie and have a chance to draw the old school Black Panther and the Nazis and the old school Captain America with the triangle shield thing. It was just a lot of fun. And then I got to indulge in my Kirby fantasies. I got to do everything on this one, so this was a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, it's gorgeous. And Paul, I have to tell you that, because we see everything ordered in the right way, the way it came into the studio. Caesar was literally a millisecond ahead of yours, and Alberto was right behind the both of you as well. So Caesar did come in first. And sometimes in the chat, and we've talked about it here on YouTube, when you put your claim in the chat or any kind of message in the chat, YouTube slaps it in there right away so that you see it, but everybody else in the chat sees it the right way, unless they're trying to claim too. So Caesar's did come in there ahead of yours. And I'm looking at the original in my hand here, and it's just kind of crazy because my scan really didn't do it justice. I hate to say it. And there's no way even holding it up to the screen would make it look any better. But I mean, it's a gorgeous piece, and you put a lot of effort into this. And it's back to, like you were saying, you don't want to leave anything to chance with the inkers. Everything needs to be
Right.
defined. And
Or give them enough that they can work with, that they can be inspired and work with it. That was my chief thing, and to show that emotion in the work. So,
well, it clearly.
Yes.
Yeah, so thank you, Caesar, for that one. And we've got the other cover, which is going to be the next here. Let me go ahead and show that one. This is lot 10, priced at $2,250. It's the cover to issue 4 from that one. And again, I mean, who doesn't love a great like versus cover, right? And when you've got two heroes like Black Panther and Cap together, I mean, again, my scan just doesn't do the piece justice, because you've literally put in like all the detail in here. This is just it's stunning. It's
absolutely gorgeous. Thank you. So kind of you. I think on this cover, I really dug the Black Panther figure in the back, because I remember doing it thinking, okay, it's going to be Captain America versus the Red Skull, and Red Skull's got his costume on. He's doing all this stuff. But what is Black Panther going to be doing in this thing? You know what? So I'm like, okay, I know what I'll do. He's going to be in some kind of action pose while Cap blocks the blast with his shield, except the Red Skull's right on him. Like, I just wanted to make it really intense, But I think my favorite figure is the Black Panther leaping figure in the back, and the way he's holding his double sickle weapons. So.
Yeah, no, I mean, I would almost say the same thing, because he is, very dynamic, but it's as an overall piece. I mean, it's beautiful. You've got this the whole triangle there between Cap, Red Skull, and then Black Panther. I mean, it's gorgeous. I mean, I love this piece a lot, and it's
so nice of you.
Yeah,
and remember, everything is Jack Kirby. So I always think about Jack Kirby kind of action whenever I do anything like this. Walt Simonson and Jack Kirby kind of action, and that's what I was trying to do. So
you were very successful, and Alberto Gonzalez, a huge Cap fan, has picked this one up.
There you go. Well, these are good Cap ones. So
yeah, no, that is an awesome piece. Well, congrats to everybody on those first 10. I think they were all. I mean, I hope they would go, and they did. They're all going to good homes.
Beautiful.
All right, so we do have 4 other new pages, and so we're swinging over to DC here for those. And let's see, we're going to go to lot 11 next, and these are on 11 by 17. I should note that as well. So this is lot 11, priced at $600. It's from Batman Confidential, John Floyd Inks, whom you mentioned earlier.
Yes, John Floyd Inks, written by Michael Green. Am I correct? And,
I believe that is correct. Yeah,
Michael Green. And this was interesting because it was a chance to retell the origin of the Joker.
Mm-hmm.
And I leapt at that chance. I'm like, any way to contribute to the Batman canon in any kind of way I was going to take. So I got to do a very demented, crazy Joker in a different kind of style. Again, experimenting with styles and the thing that will work best with this comic book. So this was a crazy issue. All the Batman Confidential stuff was truly a little bit unhinged and a lot of fun in its own way.
Well, this is a beautiful page as well, and it was picked up by Peter Rowe. Thanks to Nick and Steve and Michael for also being interested in this one, but Peter did get his claim in first. So we've got 3 other pages from this story as well. And so lot 12 is next. And this is page 8 from issue 9, and it's priced at $600 as well. And again, John Floyd Inks. Just these pages are just, they really are pretty stunning in person. I mean, his inks over your pencils are, they're just interesting to see, especially when you can kind of juxtapose those against the manly inks from your work.
Yeah. And against what Bill does and everything else. John is very interesting. But again, this is a page featuring Batman and the Joker. And the Joker has just killed this young lady. And it's on from this point on. It's like shows you just how crazy and demented he is. And it was just, I had a lot of fun drawing this stuff. I have a lot of fun every time I draw Batman. But it's also intimidating because so many artists have drawn Batman. What are you going to bring?
Right.
That's going to be different and good. And I always thought I drew a very interesting, different kind of Batman, not one that people would expect.
Well, I saw that McFarlane Toys did a version of your, like a version of your Batman, right? And that was at the end of the year, maybe November, December. I think the announcement came out.
They were so
Did
cool.
did you have a hand in that at all? Did you get to see like in process?
I was stunned. I was stunned when I saw it. Yeah, they picked one of the images from a Batman book I did with Andrew Vox.
Mm-hmm.
Andrew Vox and I did a Batman thing about it was like about child abuse and all the things that happened. And I drew that. What was the original question? I'm sorry.
I was just saying, was it cool to have McFarlane do that? And were you involved at all in the?
So what he did? So what McFarlane did? This is what I was going to say. I'm like, why am I talking about this? What McFarlane did and McFarlane Toys did was take an image from that book, from the thing I did with Andrew Vox, and it was one of those. I think it was either a cover image or whatever, with a very dramatic shot of Batman with his cape and doing all that stuff, and turned that into a statue. And I could not have been more touched. I was just blown away. Cowan Batman, what? So I don't have one yet, by the way. I want to get one, but so Todd, if you or any of your people listening, you could send me one. That'd be okay.
I thought for sure I was going to see one, like
You're right. If I had one, see one, like it'd be right in the front of me. It's like you wouldn't even see me. I have to look around my statue, and I'd refuse to move it.
Well, I threw a link in the chat for those of you who are curious to see it, because I didn't even see. Oh, it's like 9.5 inches tall, so it's a pretty darn slick statue. It's really well done. And McFarlane Toys always does great stuff. But when I saw that, I thought, yeah, that's a pretty cool rendition of Batman.
I was really touched. I was really touched. Todd's one of my heroes, so he's amazing.
Well, we'll look at the last two Batman Confidential pieces next. So this is lot 13. This is, again, from issue 9. So we had 3 pages from issue 9 here, and this is page 14. Floyd Inks, of course, again. Yeah. And this one's priced at $600.
Yeah. I think in this one, I'm trying to remember what it was. I think that's the Joker character too, that he's talking to, trying to figure out what this dude is all about. But I drew truly a different kind of Batman. Looking at it now, I was very Topi, looking at Topi and looking at Battaglia, one of the artists that I like at this time for this kind of look. So that's what I was trying to do. That's what I was trying to do here. I think I was driving poor John Floyd crazy. Because this was exactly the opposite. I was doing a lot of lines, trying to convey, this emotion that I wanted to get. So, yeah.
Now, what? I didn't do enough research, but which issues for this did you draw? Did you start with issue 1, or did you come in a little bit later?
No. Well, Batman Confidential. I think Batman Confidential was like this series of unknown Batman stories or something. I think Klaus did the first few, maybe the first 4-issue arc, and then I did one. I think that's what it was with Batman Confidential. So if this is issue 9, I probably did issue 5, 6, 7, or 6, 7, 8, and 9, like that, or something like that. I don't remember, but it was I didn't start with issue 1 with Batman Confidential. I just came in as one of the ongoing Batman titles to do my 4-issue segment.
I want to congratulate Ace Wonder for that pickup. Thank you so much, Ace. That's a nice page. We only got one more to show, and this one is priced at $500, lot 14. It is from issue 10, page 9, and it's got, like you said, that must have been fun working on that Joker image right there in that last panel. Yeah,
this one's just the Joker, and it was a lot of fun. I got to draw the Joker in action and doing this crazy stuff with a chain, like he's like a leaping superhero, but crazy people can do anything. So here we are. I like that last panel with him being all skinny and not looking just looking crazy. I like that. I think I drew a pretty pretty insane joker. I just started out thinking that, he was insane. Hey, Nick, I started out thinking he was just insane, and I wanted to draw him like that. An outward manifestation of his inner turmoil was what this job was all about.
Interesting. And looking at this piece, and I didn't really feel it on the other ones, but I look at this one and I see in John Floyd's inks, I feel a little Barry Windsor Smith creeping.
Yeah.
Like in the back of the figure from behind and that last panel, that ink work that's there.
Yeah.
And I think it's just in the quality of the line work, right? I mean,
Barry's one of my like I said, Barry, Walt Simonson, Sergio, Garcia Lopez have been big influences on me. Especially, Barry's been one of the best who ever did comics. I wanted to draw comics like him really badly, so I still try to draw like Barry does.
Well, and that's what's cool. It's like you're saying, you always want to draw like him, but then you get to work with an inker that's worked with him, and then I don't know.
I wanted to draw like Neil.
A great feeling, a wonderful experience to have that happen.
I wanted to draw like Neil. I ended up working with Dick Giordano. I wanted to be like Frank Miller when he was doing the Daredevils. I'm doing Power Man and Iron Fist, dinking along. But one day I'm going to work with Klaus Janson, and I'm going to really do. And I ended up working with Klaus. So yeah, I'm lucky, man.
You've had a pretty blessed career, man. In many ways, that's so cool. I mean, I don't know. Again, it's the time though. You think about it, the dedication to the work, and the fact that you're versatile. You've been able to work with both publishers on a lot of big titles, and that ends up getting, I mean, wow.
Yeah, thank you.
Dang, Denys. All right, so that was the last of the new stuff that we have. We do have 5 other pieces that we didn't sell on the last show, so we discounted those a bit and thought we would show them one last time before we send them back to Denys, and they end up in a flat file again to maybe reappear 30 years from now.
Yeah, right.
So let's see here. I think I got them all right over here. Yes, I do. And these are all 11 by 17 as well. So we'll hop over and take a look at, let's see, lot number 15 first. And this is from that Dark Knight's Death Metal, Infinite Hour. Lobo throughout all of this. I mean, and it's funny, I never showed the finished pieces with these when we looked at them last time, but it was kind of cool. I went back and I was like, I want to see how these things looked. And yeah, really nice. Now, so these are the pencils only, of course, not the ink versions on these, but this one's priced at $400, and it is page 34. And just so the 4 pages that we're going to show from Death Metal, they're consecutive. They're pages 34 through 37.
Right. So it's a storytelling sequence. So,
exactly.
Yeah. This is nuts. This is Batman. This is Bat Lobo versus Lobo. I thought I was going crazy when I was drawing it. What kind of insanity am I drawing? I did a comic book with Lobo 30 years ago called Lobo's Blazing Chain of Love. And I did it because Simon Bisley did not have time to do it, and they asked me to do it. So I did my best Simon Bisley interpretation of Lobo. But it was Lobo basically screwing his way through the galaxy. And then he ended up on a planet full of women, and then he really went berserk. And I'm like, what am I drawing? So, and after that, I was like, I will never draw this book again, because what this is just insane. And I ended up drawing him for this. So I was able to do it again. It was a lot of fun.
Well, congrats to Tron World on this one for picking up lot 15. We both appreciate that.
Yes, we do. Thank you.
So when you had to pick up the mantle from Bisley, was it? I mean, did they say we feel like you can step into his shoes because of the style, or was just like, is that what it was?
Yeah, it was that. Simon was like one of the hottest things in comics at the time when he was doing it. He's an amazing artist. But they felt that I could at least cop some of that, with what I was doing. I had done the question, I had done all this stuff,
right.
And I did, and it was one of the few things I inked myself the whole issue, just to get that kind of crazy feeling. I didn't do it half as well as Bisley did Lobo, but I did my thing on it. I tried to I do my best. But that was also at a time when they were asking me to do a lot of stuff like that. So can you pinch in on Lobo? You can do this kind of thing. And I did. People don't know, but I did a lot of style guide art. The Garcia Lopez style guy? Well, after he finished doing them, Denys Cowan did a whole bunch of that stuff. Yes. And I
Wow.
did that because I could draw kind of like Garcia Lopez when they wanted me to. And that's what I did. I try to do them in that kind of style. So
Sick.
I've always.
Are those in flat files somewhere at the Cowan residence?
You know what? I may have one or two of them. I may have one or two.
I would, I wouldn't mind just seeing them sometime.
Yeah, that's all the style guys.
We ever do when we do our next show.
Yeah, and Dick Giordano inked a bunch of that stuff. So what I have is stuff that Dick inked.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah.
No, I'd love to see how those turned out. That'd be cool. I had no idea.
Yeah. So I did a bunch of that stuff imitating Garcia Lopez. So I was able to do that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So they asked me to do. When they asked me to do Lobo, it's because of that. It's because I had that ability to kind of, mimic some of the elements of those styles.
Yeah. You're versatile talent. And they knew it. They were like, we can rely on Denys.
A great copycat is what it was. I can copy anything.
Well, they look back to that Deathlock work and said, oh, and we saw him experiment. He can experiment here.
He can do it. He can draw like Mike Mignola. He can draw like Neil Adams, whatever.
Oh man! All right, let's see We'll look at the next lot here. This is lot 16, and it's like I said, last page was 34. This is page 35, priced at $400. Got Lobo all over this one, kicking butt as always, and just
he kicks Lobo's ass and then stuffs him somewhere.
That's pretty much what he did throughout this whole book, right? He was just kicking everyone's rear end like he always does.
Yeah. No, this is a lot of fun drawing him again. Drawing Lobo again. This is crazy action in this though. I'm trying to remember what the exact story was. It's just I remember reading the script just thinking this is just crazy. But I like drawing Lobo. I like how crazy he is. It is great. I think this is the last time we see that Batman character too. That's it for him. It's over.
Yeah, well, he didn't stand a chance, that's for sure. No. And I see Dave Kopecki has claimed lot 16. Thank you so much, Dave.
Thank you, Dave.
But yeah, it's a slick page. He's really nice.
Thank you.
And it's funny because going back and looking at these, you really do put in that extra detail in these and confidently. These aren't like just kind of loosely, because I've seen it, like say you've seen things like say Buscema pencils, sometimes that other artists would use the ink from, right? And sometimes they're loose, a little more gestural. Not your stuff is like you're pressing the pencil point down on the board while you're drawing. You're not like leaving it anything to chance. I mean, I think, and that's what really makes this stuff stand out to me.
Oh, thank you. I don't know if it's the easiest stuff to ink, but at least I'm trying to give you enough information that you don't have to guess a lot about what's going on. You can just, if you want to add to it, you can, but if you just wanted to ink it like it was, it'd be fine. That's really where I was at on these.
All right, let's see. We're going to look at lot 17 next. This one's priced at $300. It's page 36, same book, of course. And we got that Brainiac version in there in different ways, but again, same. One of the things I wanted to ask you about this, because I see it's a consistent style in your more recent work, is where you don't have gutters, or the gutters are in black. Is that kind of a stylistic thing that you're trying to, the way you want people to view the page?
Yeah, it's always a choice.
Yeah,
because gutters, panel borders really indicate time in a way, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Wide panel border. If it was a wider panel border, in your mind, it's just taking more time to get to the next scene, and you're kind of breaking it up. A smaller panel border, you're kind of jumping into the next thing pretty quick. The dialogue is happening. You're jumping into the next picture. There isn't a lot of separating that between that and the other picture. You're just manipulating time and space when you're messing with panel borders like that.
Right.
I like black panel borders because there was one job I did, a whole series. I did a book for Vertigo called Voodoo Child. And I think we did like 8 issues or whatever. But I remember the editor, who's an awesome editor, did not like black panel borders. And so I couldn't do black panel borders in a horror comic book. And I remember that always bothered me. that I couldn't do it because she just hated it. So I made a mental note. Whenever I get a chance to do black panel borders from now on, I'm going to do it, and no one's going to tell me not to.
Right.
So you get some of that, you know.
This is you fighting back, getting your way.
Years, like 10 years later, I'm still mad about it. So,
well, congrats to Nick Ferrucci on picking up lot 17. We sincerely appreciate it. We got 2 more lots to look at here. Lot 18 is up next. Here, let me hide that claim there from Nick. So this is the last page we have from this book. This is page 37, and this is like the epilogue page too, because 17 was
you know, he lands in the front of the Fortress of Solitude, and he's like, "This is it." But no, what happened was he shoved that big Batman into the interdimension, and that's where he ended up. He ended up at the Fortress of Solitude, or whatever that is, or the Justice League thing, or whatever that is. So that was a lot of fun. I liked doing the panel 3 with the cigar in the mouth.
Yeah, you didn't get to keep that too long. But yeah, I should have mentioned that too, because the last page was essentially the end page to the book, and then this was the epilogue for it. But
right.
The Hall of Justice. You got that right, Derek. But yeah, fun. Last, that getting slugged like that at the end is a great way to kind of cap things off.
Yes, I think I like panel 2 the most, with that kind of whatever gesture he's doing. You know, rising from the wreckage. That was fun. And you always find something that, you know, you really dig on every page. And I think that was it for me on that one. I like that panel.
Well, it's a very nice piece. It's still available. You know, this is lot 18. It's the only one not claimed so far. We only have one other piece to look at. Lot 19 is not from that. It's a different book entirely. This is from Batman Ultimate Evil. This is from issue 2. It's page 16 with Prentice Rollins ink, priced at $400. And I think somebody asked earlier, I mean, did you like, Prentice Rollins work, ink work on your, because I don't remember you mentioning him. I think I saw it in the chat.
Prentice was great. Prentice Rollins was my inker on Hardware.
That's right.
Right. And he was kind of from the Dick Giordano school. This one's a find though, because I think Ultimate Evil, when did this come out?
It's stamped 96 on the back.
Yeah, this is a 96 book, so this is one of those 90s things. Yeah, this was a good one.
Yeah, whoever gets to look at this thing up close, I mean, the ink work is pretty interesting. Even like that's the second the first vertical panel at the bottom. I mean, just the way the grassland's drawn there.
Yeah,
I mean, it's really, really unique the way they chose to do the inking on this. So this is a cool piece where you can look at it and say Prentice really added a little bit of his own touches, right?
Whoever got this, I think, got a real bargain, because this is one of those pages from the 90s.
Right.
30 years ago almost. So it's a good one. I can't believe I sent this to you. I sent this to you?
Yeah, I think I think this might have been the first show, maybe, and it
may have been. I barely remember it, but wow.
But well, congrats, to Michael for picking that one up. We really appreciate it. And so everybody knows the only piece that we didn't sell was lot 18. That's the one that's right here. And remember, I mean, I know a lot of people watch the show after the fact. So if somebody is interested in this piece and wants to claim it, you can always shoot me an email, bill@comicartfans.com. And if it wasn't claimed during the show or immediately after the show, I'll let you know, and we can arrange, as far as making payment and whatnot. So I should probably remind everybody right now, since we hit the end of this, that let me get that slide back up there. I know several of you claimed more than one piece, so I want you to shoot me an email, bill@comicartfans.com, and let me know which lots you picked up. And when you do that, 2 things I also want included. Please include your mailing address, and also include how you want to handle doing the payment. I mean, you can see on here, how the service fees will go if we're doing with a credit card, but Zelle, Venmo, and even a personal check will work for me. But we will, if you can include that as part of your initial email to me, it just helps us speed things along. Because at the end of the day, like I said, I want to get the art shipped out fast and keep the good 5-star customer service rating here on the channel as best we can. Oh man! But so Denys, as always, man, this is a lot of fun, and I know I'm sure we'll Jim will get us on the schedule again. But this
We'll do
was
this
a good
again.
time, man.
We'll do this again.
Good. And any parting words for everybody? I mean, I guess what I'd like to know is, I know that the icon versus hardware is the stuff that's like, dominating your workflow now that's coming out. I mean, what after that is the next thing that we're going to see your name as a part of that project?
It'll probably be the unnamed project with Bill.
Okay.
That we're talking about on Monday with all the lawyers and all the people involved. We're putting these kinds of things together. It'll probably be that. The next thing will be the unnamed project with Bill. But there's 3 more issues of Icon and Rocket. I mean, Icon versus hardware that people have to look forward to. So I'm hard at work on that stuff. I'm right in the middle of it. Just finished issue number 3 and about to start issue number 4. So,
that's awesome.
My brain is very much in Milestone stuff now.
That's great, though. 30 years later, it's
Yes,
still right there front and center. And I just highlighted that too, just so you can see. Nick Barucci did pick up the lot 18, so it's a full sellout. We have a complete sellout.
Thank you, Nick. You're insane, man. But thank you.
Yes, thanks to everybody. I saw we got Justin Porter, Mikhail, Chuck, Steve, Caesar picked up a couple.
Everybody.
Yeah, we've Alberto and Peter. I mean, everyone.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much.
We appreciate. We know you have other things to do on a Saturday afternoon versus hanging out with us.
But you chose to stay and hang out with us, so we're touched. Thank you.
We definitely are. Well, thank you, Denys. I appreciate it. I will hang out, and I'll tell you that Florida story. It'll only take a couple minutes, but you'll enjoy it.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. I'll be back here tonight at 9. But other than that, take care. And again, thank you, Denys.
Yes, sir.